Football Fan TV. We're back with the Irish Abroad. And Steve, it's just the two of us here in the studio today. It's
No,
looking
Paul's
fairly
there.
empty.
Yeah, it is indeed. You'd miss Paul.
He's
A
on,
well-deserved break.
he is. He's been flat out recently, so well-earned holiday. But we'll get straight into it, I suppose, with another man getting the job done out in Holland, Troy Parrott, who he didn't score in in AZ's round of 16 clash with Spurs, but he contributed to the goal. He took the shot that Bergvall ended up putting in his own net. But I suppose more to the point, it's great to see Troy still getting on well, keeping this great run of form going, and getting a result in the first leg against his old club.
Yeah, 100%. And it's not the first big game in Europe that he's been involved in a goal, even though it was an own goal. But the goal doesn't happen if he doesn't skew it back into the back post. Scored against Roma, scored against Elfsborg in Europa, like we talked about. He has a big cup final over in Holland against Go Ahead Eagles at the end of April. So he's involved in a lot of big games, Troy. He hasn't scored in his last 5 games now, which, look, you could look at that and say that's concerning. But with Troy, it's more than just goal scoring with him. He's involved in play. He's developed as a player altogether, and he's always involved in AZ's wins, whether he scores or doesn't.
Yeah, like you said, he's so crucial to how they play. We've said it in the past that he's not just a goal scorer. He is like a real focal point for AZ at the top of the pitch, whether it's dropping in and picking up the ball.
Very unselfish.
Yeah, and I loved what he said in Paul's interview with Troy, which if you haven't seen, you should definitely go out and watch, because he said he's at that stage in his career where he's just really hungry for goals.
Yeah.
And that he's like kind of upset if he doesn't score. So
and I love to hear that, man. That's like, that excites me as an Irish fan.
Yeah, it's great. It's a brilliant trait to have as a striker. And talked about this great run of form. I'd say it's arguably the biggest game an Irish players played this season. I know Liam Scales and Adam Ida played big games against Bayern and stuff, but big knockout game against a big club like Spurs.
And he won it.
Yeah. And great to get that 1-0 lead heading into the tie in London. And then also just a couple of weeks out from the Ireland squad. Wants to touch on another Irish striker who's still in great form, Adam Ida. It's like we talk about Adam Ida and Troy Parrott nearly every week.
Honestly, we're blessed with the two of them.
But it's brilliant. Yeah, it's a great problem to have, because he came off the bench. Not sure why he's not starting, really, because he scores a lot of the time when he plays.
Yeah, he's been on the bench a couple of times in the last few games.
I know a couple of Celtic players have been finding the back of the net recently, so that kind of moved him to the bench. But I think he's, in my opinion, I might be a bit biased there, but I think he's the best striker Celtic have, and he comes off the bench against Hibs in the quarterfinals of the Scottish Cup and scores a great poacher's goal.
Yeah, he does indeed. Within 10 minutes as well, it's coming on a late goal. But same thing with Adam. Remember we said at the start of his tenure as being a starter of Celtic when Kyogo left, we said be the main man, Adam, and he's done that. He has, and like you said, I mean, the last few games he's been dropped a couple of times, which I find strange. I know that they've been playing Maeda as a 9, and I think Jota coming in kind of pushed Maeda from the left into the 9 position, so maybe that's why he's been dropped a couple of times. But I 100% agree with you. I think he's definitely Celtic's best number 9.
But it's also similar to Troy in a way, where it's not just the goal scoring aspect of it.
Exactly.
It's his running the channels, his hold up play. He's such a threat going forward. He's such a handful for the centre backs.
Such a physical striker.
So, like you said, we're really blessed heading into this window. And at this stage, we talk about these players every week. It's just about, can they do it in the green jersey, and can they score goals for Ireland? Because I know we do this every week, and we do like to see the lads do well personally, but at the end of the day, the purpose of this is for them to, carry that into...
Kick on for Ireland.
Yeah, into the international
honestly,
campaigns.
I have no doubt that both of them will do that. I have 100% belief that Parrott will, because Parrott has led the line all season for AZ, and he just seems so mature. Like you mentioned, the interview with Irish Fan TV that you done with Paul. I mean, he just looks so mature, and the way he speaks and his body language, and then you see him on the pitch, he looks mature. So I have no doubt with Parrott. With Ida, I mean, I'm excited to see him have another go at it. And Ida's only young. Feels like he's around so long.
Yeah, and yeah, he has he probably has a lot more Irish experience than Troy, even though Troy has been around the Ireland setup for a while. Adam has probably got more game time in a green shirt, but like you said, I think Troy has done a serious amount of growing up over the last few years, whether it's travelling around Europe, the couple of loan spells that he's had. He's really matured into a great player. So long may that continue.
Well,
Moving on to the Premier League, Liverpool coming up against Southampton, which was on paper an easy game, but an Irishman, Will Smallbone, who's only recently back from a fairly long-term injury, opened the scoring for the Saints. A bit of a mix-up at the back between Virgil van Dijk and
lovely
Alisson.
finish though.
Yeah, he real opportunistic, got the ball, and on the half turn just slotted it into the near post when Alisson wasn't protecting it, and yeah, got Southampton off to a flyer. But I wanted to talk to you a bit about Smallbone's kind of situation with Ireland coming up, because he's been out for so long. He's only really getting back to form now, or really getting back on the pitch now.
Yeah, literally, yeah, only a couple of games.
Do you kind of see him slotting into the Ireland team straight away? Because I know he was kind of touted as one of Ireland's main men when Southampton were getting promoted from the Championship. Obviously, that injury's kind of stunted that a little bit.
Exactly.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I said it. I said it last week. I think midfield is a position we lack. I think Josh Cullen is the only guaranteed starter for us in midfield. So I think there's a spot there that Smallbone can take. We've obviously seen him playing the Ireland Cup before. And look, he hasn't played his best football for Ireland, but like you said, he was looking good before his injury. I think he got a toe injury, wasn't it?
Mm.
Had him out for a long time. So and just go back to the goal against Liverpool. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like you said, opportunistic. He just didn't give up on it, and then tight little angle squeezing at the near post. So I'm delighted to see him back from his injury. Delighted to see him get a goal in such a big game. As far as Ireland goes, I'm not sure. I would definitely like to see John Patrick Finn in there beside Josh Cullen. Or if not him, I'd like to see Finn Azaz. But I'd definitely bring Smallbone with the squad. What do you think?
I think the thing with Smallbone, a lot of that will rely on what formation Hamer Hagrinson plays.
Yeah.
Whether it's the two in midfield, which we're kind of talking about if we're going to be playing two strikers in Adam and Troy, or if it's the kind of 4-5-1, which would take up three centre midfielders. I'd agree with you that Josh Cullen's probably the only one who's kind of taken that first name in the team sheet or whatever, along with a couple of others, obviously. But in midfield, I'd say he's the only one kind of guaranteed a start.
Yeah, I think so.
A couple of other players in and around it, but Smallbone was that man for a while, and just this kind of stop in his career with a pretty serious injury has kind of put some doubts in our minds over that. Having said that, I do think as much talent as he has, I don't know if he's fully lived up to what he promises in an Ireland shirt. I know he had that great assist for Adam Ida, I think, against Hungary, which I thought he really showed what he was capable of. Other than that, I'd like to see a little bit more from him, but I mean, we're all aware of the talent that he has, so hopefully he can, regain that for Ireland.
And we say that about so many Irish players are well aware of the talent and you have so much potential.
Yeah.
I just want to see it. I just want to see it consistently, because like you said, like Smallbone has little flashes of it, and then besides his injury, obviously that kept him out of the Southampton team. But I just want to see him do it consistently and not be potential, not be a future talent. Just go and do it, and you know what I mean. Just be a great player and get into the Ireland squad and be a Josh Cullen that's guaranteed a start.
Yeah, completely agree with you there. Moving on to more Premier League action in the Wolves and Everton game, which saw two Irish right backs come up against each other. Maybe one from the past and one from the present. Although who knows? Matt Doherty is, regained a bit of form actually over the last couple of weeks with Wolves, who have kind of, they're trying anyway to pull themselves out of that relegation scrap. It seems like it's going to be between them and Ipswich, although they have the upper hand at the moment. They get a 1-1 draw against Everton, who are, flying at the time.
It's actually not an awful result for Wolves, to be honest with
you. Oh, definitely not. I thought it was a very good result actually, because Everton had been, flying up until that point in the league.
Beaten now, I'm pretty sure they are.
Yeah, and but I suppose again I wanted to talk about more the Irish angle of this, because Matt Doherty had been out of the last squad, had come under a lot of criticism, probably fairly, because of his performances for Ireland. But in all fairness to him, has regained a lot of form at club level, which is the thing that we're looking for. We don't want name brand players. We don't want players based on their reputation getting in the squad. We want players who are performing well, and I'd say Jake O'Brien has been that one, performing well this season at right back, but Matt Doherty probably putting his name back in the mix.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, he's playing the Wolves team that are in a relegation battle. But if I looked at that Wolves team, I'd probably say Doherty's one of the most important players for them. I think he ended the game as captain, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, yeah.
So that says a lot about him. And then as far as Jake goes, I mean, it's undeniable at this point that he has to start for Ireland, and I think he has to start right back. How does he not? I mean, he just looks so good and so comfortable, and it's the position he's in form in. So, as far as Doherty goes, then I said to you earlier on, let's say we play the two strikers a 4-4-2. I'm honestly not against Doherty playing right side of midfield. I'm really not. Depending on the midfield, the central midfield duo. If you have one really attacking player playing central midfield, just to get a bit of balance, have Doherty out on the right, because in my opinion, his best attributes are probably going forward as a right back. We've seen him score goals and create goals in the past. So I don't know what you think about that.
The only thing I'd say about that is that he has been kind of playing as a right-sided centre-back for Wolves in this
Yeah.
kind of back five.
Yeah, well, him and Semedo have kind of like switching around.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's Doherty at right wing back. Sometimes it's Semedo. So it's kind of strange, but yeah.
Yeah, look, I could see that it's definitely an option. I don't know if I could see him being picked ahead of others who are more in form or who, in my opinion, have performed better for Ireland, to be honest. But look, it can only be a good thing, competition at that place. And actually, we're going to be recording a video about talking about the upcoming squad announcement, which, who knows, Matt Doherty might have put himself right back into.
Yeah.
And just going back to Josh Cullen, who you're talking about, who's been playing brilliantly for Burnley. A lot of the headlines have been about James Trafford and his little bet with JJ Watt, but a lot of that comes down to the players in front of him, and Josh Cullen being that anchor in midfield. Give me your thoughts on him, mate.
That's exactly what he is. He's an anchor in midfield. I mean, the last 14 league games, 13 clean sheets. Like, he's a big part of that. So, I mean, there's no debating it that Josh Cullen is playing some of his best football this season for Burnley. Burnley are on great form, and he's a big part of it. So, as I said before, I think he is one of the nailed down starters for Ireland, and especially in central midfield. I mean, he's the first name on the team sheet for me. I don't know what you think about that.
No, I'd agree with that. I think he definitely is one of the kind of nailed on midfielders that we have. The only interesting thing will be who will be put around him and how that will impact the team. But it's impacting Burnley's team really well, because I think you had there, what was it, 13 clean sheets in their last 14
league games, yeah, which is like, I don't even remember the last time something like that's happened.
That's unheard of.
That's like insane. And like, he's playing all them games, and I'm pretty sure he's playing 90 minutes in most of them as well. So he's obviously a big part of it. I mean, there's no debating that. The only thing with Josh is, like, Burnley are so up and down. Every time they go down, they do always go up, realistically. But I'd love to see him go to like a Palace type team. Like, you know what I mean? Just below mid table. Because I do think he's above championship level. I think he's shown that as well at times. So yeah, I don't know. I just love to see him play for a team that's not always getting relegated and promoted.
It's the same discussion that we had with Darragh O'Shea.
Yeah, exactly.
Burnley getting relegated, and he's like one of the better players, even though they got relegated. And the same with Ipswich this year. Like, we don't know if they're going to get relegated yet. It's not looking great. He could well be a championship player by the end of the season,
and he's just not a championship player.
Absolutely not. Yeah, and I agree with you. A Palace type team, a Fulham maybe a Bournemouth. You know, someone like that who could, definitely benefit from the likes of Josh Cullen or Darragh O'Shea for that matter. Just moving on to a couple of the players who scored and assisted over the week. Sinclair Armstrong won a penalty. He didn't score, but he won a penalty to snatch a draw against Hull. Oidemo Maku got the assist from Millwall to give them a great win away at Bournemouth.
Great to have him back.
And then, Ryan Graydon, who has scored 6 and 6 in League Two, so he's absolutely flying it. Scored again this week against Port Vale.
He took that League Two ghost status off Collins.
Yeah, maybe so. But anyway, just touching on Oidemo Maku, because he's flying at the moment after being away with injury himself. But I suppose that Irish duo that we were kind of talking about beforehand with him and Aaron Conley hasn't really panned out so far, but it feels like it's kind of one or the other playing at the moment, and maybe Oidemo's got the better of that. It seems like it is just a form-based decision, but I would love to see them, whether it's Aaron Conley up front and Oidemo on the wing or vice versa, just to see them get that connection and then take it into international level. I know that's selfishly, like, from an Irish point of view, but I know it's been kind of frustrating so far for Aaron Conley.
Yeah, especially because the player that he can be and the player that he was at Brighton. Like, he's getting like no minutes. Like, you kind of wonder why Millwall actually brought him in, because he's coming off the bench around the 70th minute, 75th minute, getting 15, 20 minutes. I think he's only got one goal, and that was against QPR. So I find that one so strange. a bit like Evan Ferguson at West Ham. You bring in like a player that has that much potential, and you don't actually give them a good run of games. I just find that very frustrating.
Yeah, no, definitely. And like you said, it's the most frustrating part of it is that we know the player that he can be.
Yeah,
And we're seeing that with Oidmo. They actually are kind of similar sort of players because they're pacey forwards who are versatile, can play up front, can play in the wing.
front three anywhere
Yeah,
really.
yeah. And so you just love to see them get a run in the team together. But on the positive side, Oidmo and Maku doing very well, which you love to see. A couple of other players that we had kind of question marks about their recent moves, and I know you want to touch on, you're over there in your little Rovers corner. You wanted to touch on the two ex-Rovers players, Darragh Burns and Neil Ferrugia.
Yeah. So Darragh, I mean, when we done the transfer show a month ago, we questioned the move to Grimsby Town, and I mean, I think everything we said has been proven right. I mean, Grimsby played today or yesterday. I think it was yesterday, and he's
Away to Walsall.
away to Walsall. They won 3-1, I think they did, but he's coming off the bench with like 6 minutes to go. Game before that, he's not even coming off the bench. He's just on the bench for the whole game. So like, it's so frustrating to me because Darragh was such a big part of Rovers, and like their big run in Europe. He got a couple of big assists against TNS, and I mean, I just don't understand it. Why? So like, why did you go to Grimsby? Because you must have been promised game time, but you're not getting it. So like, what is it? Like why did you actually go there? Because you're just rotting on the bench in League Two now when you could have been playing in League of Ireland, batting for leagues. I just
You'd have to wonder. I know, like I'd agree with a lot of what you just said there. You'd have to wonder what Rovers' actual interest was, because I can't imagine going to, that level and swapping, European football big matches in Tala Stadium, for the level that he's at now. And you've seen it actually with Rovers players in the past. I don't think it's a Rovers thing. I think it's just
happens with a lot. Like we talked about the two Bowes lads, Afalabi.
Yeah.
And what's his name?
Well, I was going to say about Danny Mandrew as well, going to Lincoln City and that not working out. Danny Grant's back playing for Rovers, and he had his stint where he was at Huddersfield, not really getting in, had injuries, frustrating, goes to Harrogate, doesn't really work out there either. But ends up coming back to the League of Ireland, which I think is nothing to be ashamed of, because you're coming back and playing at a really high level.
Yeah.
And then also, we're going to touch on it as well in the League of Ireland podcast, talk a bit about Rovers more there. But Neil Ferrugia as well, probably Rovers' best player last season, arguably. And he's playing at Barnsley also.
Yeah, I mean, he's playing at Barnsley, which is obviously a higher level.
And he's doing okay.
He's doing okay. He's playing like an hour a game. But when he went to Barnsley, they were in like the playoff position. I think they were 5th or 6th. Now they're mid-table, 10th, 11th. I mean, he's playing, but like he's not competing for titles in League One. He's not. I mean, he's probably gonna compete for playoffs at the end of the year. But right now they're mid-table, so that's another frustrating one for me, because I remember you and Paul were saying that you think that Neil is at least championship level, and I couldn't agree more with that. But like, are we going to see him at a championship, or is he just going to stay down in League One with Barnsley? Like, it's just, there's so many things about the moves with himself and Burns that just confuse you, man. And everything we talked about is kind of coming to fruition with their moves. It's actually shown that they're not actually as great at moves as they probably should be.
Yeah. And just to move on, I know you'd bleed and talk about Rovers for about an hour here, but we have to get you off them somehow. I know you want to talk about Aaron Cashin as well, whose move also is kind of, it's early days still, but hasn't really seen too much game time at Brighton so far, which I don't think was too much of a shock, to be honest, because Brighton had been doing okay and been pretty solid defensively. He is a good player, but he was playing week in, week out at Derby, and now he's kind of not really playing too much at all.
He's not even coming off the bench for minutes. He's not coming off the bench in cup games. He's not starting. He's just not playing at all. And I mean, Brighton aren't playing their best football. They're kind of up and down a little bit at the moment with form. Maybe they could do with a player like Cashin. But another one, I hate seeing Irish players, especially young Irish players, go to clubs and sit on the bench. I mean, with him, how much did he go for? 10 million, was it?
Yeah, it was something. It was a decent price, and he's a player who, we actually had been touting a little bit to play for Ireland, because there was that left back position we're not sure about. I know he's a centre back, but
he can play as a left back.
He's a left side. He's kind of smaller stature and could probably play left back if we needed him to, in that sort of kind of back four or centre backs, if you want to call it that. We've been touting him at that because he's been playing so well and captain in Derby.
at such a young age. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
So just as well, just to touch on, I not to end it on a kind of sad note, but Ben Dummigan, who young Cork City player, 16 years old, meant to be getting a move to Hoffenheim, and then they do the medical and find a condition in his heart, which I suppose is a positive in a way that he found that without finding out.
in the early stages. Yeah.
Yeah, which is the silver lining to it. Although unfortunately, the really sad news is that he has to retire from football. Just your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Look, there's nothing else to say other than it's really sad.
Yeah.
And he was about to get a big move over to Germany, but you have to look at the bigger picture in life, don't you? There's things bigger than sports, things bigger than football, and he got to the condition early.
Yeah.
He has to retire, but at least his health isn't at risk.
Yeah. So sorry to end it on a bit of a sad note, but we just wanted to say, like, I'm sure Steve agrees and Paul as well, that we wish Ben the very best in whatever he decides to do after that. And yeah, very unfortunate that his career has to be cut short. But anyway, moving on, we are finished up here.
Yeah, we
so
did.
Make sure to look out for our League of Ireland podcast as well as our squad announcement preview, and check us out on all the socials. Thanks a million for watching, and see you next week. There you go. Oh. Yeah. I completely blanked on his name there, so I had to quickly run